smug with Varanids at the same time. You know, I got Kilo and a group of tree monitors from Joe, and so we're keeping all 5 species, all captive-born raised from babies that are available in the U.S. There's a total of 8 species, but only 5 are available here in the U.S. There's the greens, the blues, the yellows, the blacks, and the Beox. Now right here, this is one of the rarer ones. This is Varanids ricingeri, the yellow tree monitor. And so of the 5 species available here in the United States, the rarest and the most recently described to science is Varanids ricingeri. And they were described by some animals that were found in a food market by a private keeper and monitor enthusiast, Manfred Reisinger. And he was able to tell the difference by the high yellow coloration. They look very similar to the green tree monitor, but there's several morphological characteristics that they're able to key these out with, the number of bands in between their legs, and several other things, as well as DNA. So these guys are found on Misol Island, and they've been separated away from the main group of tree monitors for millions and millions of years. So basically, all of the tree monitors come from one common ancestor, similar to what we see as in the green tree monitor today. And we call that allopatric evolution, where, you know, the land bridge went away, the sea levels went down, and they evolved into separate and very unique, yet, you know, similar and incredible species. So this is a baby that I raised up, little captive-born baby from Indonesia, and it's completely socialized. So I can reach in there, I can touch its mouth. It will walk out onto my arm, readily accepts prey. This thing is very, very happy with its life in captivity, and that makes me very happy. So the goal is to hopefully reproduce these multiple generations like we were talking about earlier, and end up with much more docile, much hardier animals, because I believe these are really great animals for people who do want to experience keeping the monitor. I mean, you can see here, this is a big enough cage for this animal for its entire life to breed. I based this cage off Manfred Reisinger, the namesake of this monitor. He's bred most of the species of tree monitors, and it's a good size for keeping in humidity, providing multiple hides, multiple nesting areas. We have a misting system in here. We hand spray multiple times a day. They're by no means a beginner animal. People ask me all the time, Forrest, what's a good beginner monitor? I don't think there is one. I think that they just take too much time, too much cage space, and too much dedication. So I think you need to do your research and go enjoy the monitors at the zoos and at other people's collections, and maybe start with a leopard gecko or a bearded dragon. But wait until you're out of college and you bought a house, you own that house, you don't plan on moving, then build yourself a really cool monitor enclosure. But I don't know what that perfect starter monitor is. I do know the key to keeping these guys happy and healthy is hydration. Don't get them too hot, and feed them regularly. Supplement them with a variety of supplements. Variety is the key to the diet with these guys. Is, you know, you can feed them all sorts of seafoods, shellfish, whole prey, insects. They love insects. We feed ours crickets and roaches every single day. So then we supplement them with a variety of Repashy and other products every week as well. So that's a yellow tree monitor. Pretty cool.
Hey Forrest, real quick, what's the size dimensions on these cages and who makes them? So
these were made by my good friend Doug Barr. He distributes through JPM Reptilia, and these cages have dwarf monitor cages on the bottom that are 4 feet wide by 2 feet deep by 2 feet high. And then these tree monitor cages are 5 feet tall by 4 feet wide by 2 feet deep.
And that's a single unit?
That's a single unit.
Both. Yep. So it's the larger tree monitor cage on top.
Yes.
So there's no break in between there. That's a solid cage just for you guys that are watching this.
And I did that so that basking light on that bottom corner there is actually heating the substrate on the top here. So what I had hoped, and based off Manfred Reisinger's success in Europe, was that would provide them the perfect opportunity to zero in on the right temperature of nesting material that they were looking for, and we'll see if it works.
Productions.
All right, so here we have the blue tree monitor. These guys were described back in 1999 from Batanta Island. Pretty small population left of these guys. Definitely concerns. Sounds like they might be going CITES Appendix 1, so they're going to put some regulations on how many of these can be exported. So a lot of us are ramping up our captive breeding programs. There's several people in the United States who are already successful, like Hai Niagan from Naked Dragons, Brandon from Canadian Cold Blood. These guys have been killing it with reproducing these guys in captivity. But it's, this is a monitor I think we all only could have dreamed of, and it's kind of funny to think before 1999 we could only have dreamed of it because we didn't know it exists. That's the amazing world of herpetoculture, and imagine all those Indonesian islands we haven't been to. I guarantee you there's more species of tree monitors yet to be found, and I can't wait to see what explorers and herpetoculturists like Michael Cole come up with in the near future, because I have a feeling there's going to be some surprises. But this is a captive born animal. You can see, I grabbed him out of the cage. He's not interested in biting me. He's just interested in running around, being active, being a tree monitor. And
what's the size in relation to the ones you just pulled out?
So they're both, I've been raising them as babies. I consider this one ready to breed. He has been breeding. The females are much more slender. This is a male. And they'll get bigger, he'll get considerably bigger than this, but he is sexually mature.
And how old?
I think he is probably hovering around maybe 18 months at the most. That's just a wild guess. Yeah, Varanids macraei, the blue tree monitor.
The reason I was asking about how old is, I was kind of curious what the time before sexual maturity with these guys is. Not just these, but any of them.
I don't know exactly, but I know from talking to John from SimHatch, Jeff Lem, and other lifelong monitor experts that, they can really surprise you with how young they can be. And you definitely want to be prepared with a lay box sooner than later, because you could cause egg binding and dystocia by not having a nesting area with a young female monitor. And in the case of Kimberly Rock monitors, if I recall hearing Jeff Lem say, they can reproduce at 4 months old. So
that's ridiculous.
Who would have thought, right?
I thought it was 6 months and still couldn't believe it.
Yeah, maybe it was, because I believe I heard it on your podcast. But, I could be wrong. But I remember being blown away that they could reach sexual maturity at that age. And, they always say with monitors and nesting that you have to have that nesting material ready far in advance before they even start developing those follicles. They have to be very, very comfortable with that nest site. It's not something they're just going to stumble along that day and say, hey, I think I'm going to put my year's reproductive effort into here. It needs to be somewhere they go to every day and they're comfortable and they can, their scent's there and they feel comfortable. Nesting is the name of the game with monitors, and it's certainly nothing I can tell you about because I'm just a keeper at this point. So I keep and appreciate these, and hopefully someday I can dream of breeding them. But if not, I enjoy them so much. That's okay.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah, for sure.
And now you're cohabbing, right?
Yeah, I'm cohabbing. I started them out together.
With all of your different species?
Yeah, all of my different species. And of 7 attempted pairings, I've lost 2 animals. And I got a necropsy on the most recent one, and it was done by Fishhead Labs, who does the best necropsies in the United States, and it was ruled out a random breeding-related death. So I believe it was, what we would consider a hemipene drag across the substrate, caused an infection, and that was the cause of death. So that was a bummer. Because I do have those concerns, like, hey, am I going to cause premature egg development? But I was on a podcast with John from SimHatch recently about this, and he said they're not going to produce if they're not ready. So he doesn't think that's a concern. So he thinks it's more of a concern of compatibility. I've seen pictures of tree monitors that have ripped each other in half. Opposite sexes, were healthy in other colonies. You can have incompatible animals, just like you can have an animal that is nowhere near socialized and will bite every time and spray urates. You can have animals that don't like each other, just like people. So, when you go and you get these wild ideas to get into these long-term projects with these animals, be prepared for things like that they might not ever be able to be socialized, that they might not be compatible. These are live animals that we're still figuring out, and you have to have patience, dedication, and above all, just love for the animals if you want to be able to get through something like monitor breeding, because it's very challenging. They can break your heart, but if you can succeed with these, it's the accomplishment of a lifetime.